Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ice Mac MMA podcast. I'm Jackson McCarty, joined as always with my buddy Alex Eisman. And before we jump into any of the previous fights from last week, a couple of fights to look forward to this weekend. Make sure you follow us or subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We're on all three. Like, comment, do whatever you can. It helps us out a ton. But Alex, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Working hard in between doing this in between baseball games for the Cheyenne Post Six Sixers.
It's a hustle.
Something you and I both love dearly. So it's not
Yeah,
all
well,
bad, right?
it's they've got Mac 2.0 out there now, so that's got to be a good vibe. Like there's a lot of good stuff going around, but I can think of a whole lot worse to be spending my time on than going and watching some baseball in Cheyenne.
Yes, sir. It was a beautiful day too. Finally started to get some nice weather out here, so I'm not complaining. And you're getting some gorgeous weather too, man. When I was there last weekend, it was high high 70s, low 80s.
It's
Amazing.
it's been 75 and sunny all weekend, brother. I cannot
Oh,
complain a bit, but it's coming towards you too. Like you said, you're starting to feel it a little bit, moving towards summer, moving towards 302, which is going to be a great card. But in the meantime, we've got five fights from the previous fight night card. We don't have any news really. And then we've got two fights that we're going to predict and two mentions as well for this upcoming fight night card. And we start off with Tabitha Ricci, um, 1 for 10 on her takedown defenses or attempts rather. Not good. Somehow or another got the win though.
I was gonna say I thought she lost that fight.
Yeah, I
I
think
thought I called my shot going against her,
I think she
and I
got the
really
win.
thought I got it.
I think she got the win in scorecard only. Like after watching that fight, I was not like, oh, I feel better about Tabitha Ricci. Oh, she won that fight. Like it was not a satisfying, and really that's about to become the tale of this card. But it was not a satisfying um, picture to leave my mind with at the end of that card.
No, there's nothing that she did really that impressed me. And of the two fighters, she's the one who you're kind of wondering like what more she can do. Tisha is established. You kind of know what she's going to bring to the table, and I thought she fought very well. I thought
Yeah.
she had a great fight. So yeah, a little disappointed that she didn't get the scorecards to go her way.
Well, and rest assured, this is probably the last Tabitha Ricci prediction because I don't, or well, for the time being, because like I don't think she's jumping up competition after that fight. And it's hard to imagine that we'll want to predict somebody that looked like that, in our next one if it's similar competition.
Yeah, it's not going to be dependent on her. It's going to be dependent on who she's up against.
A
So
thousand percent. Which unfortunately might be the same for the next dude because Robelis Despain was, I mean, liquid hot coming into the company. He looked awesome, looked great in his first fight. What was that?
there's a fraud check.
Bad. I mean, what do
Can't
we know?
not know
Despain
how to
can't
wrestle.
grapple. Right. I
Yeah,
mean, he
you
looks like
can't
he's
not know how to wrestle and expect to have success in the UFC.
I see. I'll disagree slightly. You cannot know how to wrestle and be okay-ish, especially in like in his weight class. You can't look totally confused that that aspect of the sport exists. Like he looked like, and so nobody had ever told him that that was a possibility.
I'll group like takedown defense into not knowing how to wrestle.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll group
Then
that in
then I
because
concur.
I mean, yeah, like if you are at least able to stuff takedowns, like you'll be fine. That dude did neither against a guy who is not not at all a world class wrestler.
Look like Curtis Blades out there, though. I tell you.
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
mean,
say he looked like Gordon Ryan out there, dude.
steroids and all. I mean, like it was the full package. Yeah, that was so Despain can't grapple. We know that now. We talked before going into this fight, being like, we need to learn more about Rebelis, and we were both like, we don't think that's going to happen. And then Cortez Acosta just grabbed a hold of him, and was like, okay, at least we know more now, I guess.
Yeah, we know now, and I mean his stay in the UFC is going to be short if he keeps putting up performances like that. Before we get to our next one, though, I do want to at least give a shout out to our boy Chase Hooper.
True. We should have predicted that fight looking back on it. Also, did you see him on MMA Hour today?
Yeah,
talking about like how Charlie Olives went 3-3 in his first UFC fights, and it's
Max Holloway, yeah.
right. It's like I don't get me wrong. I hope everything goes perfectly well for Chase Hooper. I hope he becomes a champion one day. You're not Charlie Olives. Like you moved up weight, which is comparable. You know, that's what Charles did. But that's probably about where the comparisons stop. I do think Chase can be like a top 5, top 7 dude for his career. I'm kind of out on champion status, but keep doing what you're doing, man, because he looked awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He's 24, so still a lot of growth left to be had for him too. And it seems like the move to lightweight was 100% the best career move for him. And I mean, I know he's not Charles Oliveira, but Charles, I think, stayed at featherweight for almost too long.
Right.
And he could have been the champ at lightweight for a long while longer. Actually, maybe not because Khabib still existed, but he kind of hit the right spot in time to just hit his stride. But he probably would have had a better record, I guess,
Yeah,
if he moved up to lightweight
he could have been
earlier.
a top 5 guy at lightweight for a couple of years before Khabib left. Probably had a fight with Khabib or two, and then done whatever there. Also, I'd like to, because he is so young. I shouldn't say I'm out on Chase Hooper as a possible champion. Like he is way too young to be saying that. Just right now, I don't think I've seen the potential to match that. But I'd love to be proven wrong. Like I said, um, just not a dude that I would buy. Like if we were doing a Rising Stars draft right now, probably still wouldn't have him on that. But him bumping up that weight class has been such a difference maker for him.
Yeah, and I think I'd love to see him fight someone ranked next, because he's looked awesome in every single fight he's had at lightweight so far. So I'd like to see him fight someone ranked next. We'll see, but um, I think that would be really good for him. Now,
Before well, double before. Do you remember if what fight it was? And this is still when we were doing like in-person pods pre-video. When I put the timer on, so we would only talk about a fight for as long as it actually lasted. It was like a minute and 15 seconds. Do you happen to remember what that fight was by chance? If not, I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't. We would have to go back and
In the
find
time
that. But
machine,
I
yeah.
remember what you're talking about. We did do that for sure.
Yeah, so like we can't do that with this one because it lasted 12 seconds. We would barely be able to get through the names. But Carlos Ulberg is a savage. Also, don't know how that punch knocked him out.
I don't either, but we've known for a while that he hits really hard. Um, and I mean, Carlos Ulberg is honestly like he's one of our like OG guys that we've just like been on the hype train since the beginning of the pod.
I remember like the first fight we ever predicted of his. You were very actively pushing for that. You were because like we were running through. I don't even remember. I think it was probably a pay-per-view card. And he was like EPs, and you were like, "We got to talk about Ulberg at least to mention or something." And I was like, "Man, I don't even like really know that much about him." And then I went and watched him. I was like, "Oh, I get it." And he has just continuously delivered on that "Oh, I get it" moment. And now that he's knocked out Alonzo Menifield, like,
Yeah,
what's next?
that is a just beating Alonzo Menifield is a big
Right.
win. Beating him in 12 seconds, wild,
With a punch that did
insanity.
not look like it would knock somebody out, too. Like, and
Yeah,
again, it's Alonzo. Like, he can hang in there, and he gets clipped with just a little bit of what you got and goes down. Like, come on, that's huge.
I love Ulberg. He also comes from like the Volkanovski, the Adesanya gym. Like he's training with the best in the world. Like this stuff like this doesn't surprise me anymore. Like
No.
I just can't wait to see him keep climbing up. And really like you think about light heavyweight as a division and it isn't very deep. Like you have probably I want to say 3 or 4 guys that are like true title contenders. Like this, he could be like rising very, very fast, very soon.
Yeah, he could become a light heavy challenger in his next like 2 fights, or
Hmm.
have 2 more and then a title fight. That's how much he's done for his stock just in such a little amount of time. which of course he has to thank Ihor for going easy on him, getting him, starting to build that. I'm sorry. If Ihor Potera ever watches these, which I don't think he will, but like I would feel very bad because I'm sure he's a decent.
He does.
Like I would feel awful because I'm sure he's a fine enough guy, but like it's just
You
it's
shouldn't have done that to Shogun, bro, and then we wouldn't have to be on his ass
true.
like that.
He did kind of earn it. He definitely did like Fortnite dance on Shogun Hua for no reason. And now this is his legacy. But yeah, so thank you, Ihor, for going easy on Carlos Ulberg. And hopefully Ulberg gets a good opponent this next go around. Not to say Zoe's not one, but like a step up.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's warranted with everything that he's done and his entire really his whole UFC career up till this point. He deserves every big jump that he can make. Um, and then co-main,
Yep. Man,
Buckley.
I was riding the Ruzaboyev train coming into this. The only advantage he had was that he was taller than
Yeah.
Buckley because 4 takedowns to 0. Hold on, I've got the numbers here. 113 landed strikes for Buckley, 43 for Nurse, as we were calling him last week. Um, 86 significance to 31, 4 takedowns to 0. I mean, and then you watch the fight and it felt even more one-sided than those numbers I just said. It was such a display by Buckley.
You got caught in the Jalen Turner trap, dude.
I did. But that's the thing. Jalen was like, this guy's so unproven. I got caught in the Habib first 15 fighters or whatever. You remember how like his combined record of his first 10 opponents
Yeah.
is like 12-48? That's what I got trapped in because I was like, dude, this guy's got 30 wins and he just turned 30. Sign me up.
But yeah, no, Buckley, uh, that fight honestly probably should have been stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know how it wasn't, but either
Drastically
way,
one
man,
sided.
Buckley is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He is, talk about upwards trajectory. That dude is skyrocketing right now. Like,
That's a dude every time we get him on predictions, I forget how much better he is than the first time we started talking about.
yeah. Well,
Like,
it's because I mean, another weight change, this time going down for him because he was, I mean, so small as a middleweight. And now it's just like he's this jacked beast at welterweight and he's like beating the crap out of people.
yeah, the weight up, he looked like you walking around in regular society, but now he's like,
Oh,
he looks
okay. All
more.
right. All right. That was so not called for at all. I don't
I'm
know why
sorry.
you said that. I
I'm
don't know
sorry.
why you didn't need to say that. You didn't need to say that.
I didn't, but I needed to get some of the heat off Ehor.
Edit it out. Take it out.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll write up like an apology letter for next week. You
Yeah,
got to
you
give me
better
some.
release a statement
I will.
next
Don't worry.
week, a
Yeah.
prepared statement from your lawyers.
I'll get it on a scroll too, all nice and fancy for you. You know what wasn't fancy? Derrick Lewis getting his ass out in front of the crowd. But he did it, and it's classic Derrick Lewis, classic Derrick KO. The reason everybody loves him is because he is who he is, and it's just the type of wins. And I gave his opponent too much credit, um, but it's the exact type of thing we talked about when Derrick Lewis signed up for what 7 fights, because I think he got like a 7 fight extension like 2 fights ago. And we were
Mhm.
like, he needs to fight cans. He needs to get cool walk-off moments. He needs to be able to do the balls is hot thing. And this is exactly what that was.
Yeah, and he was not going to win that fight unless he knocked him out.
I know.
That was he was getting just pumped on the
But
ground by this
that's
dude.
Derrick, dude.
Yeah,
Like he's always good for 2 things: standing up through a takedown and some crazy mythical knockout out of nowhere.
yeah. But I was here for everything. Uh, he took off all of his clothes, or not all of his clothes, his shorts and his cup,
Well,
and
and
then pulled his ass out for the crowd.
yes.
Uh, yeah, that's just Derrick Lewis, man.
Yeah. I mean, literally all we have to say about this was it was a Derrick Lewis fight.
Yeah.
And then you move on. Like
And it
that's all.
delivers. It delivers every time. You know what? Like I saw this fight as the headliner, and I was like, really? Like, what are we doing? And then you get to the moment where it's just Derrick Lewis being Derrick Lewis, and you're like,
Yes.
oh, this is so fun.
It's like watching, what is it, Rocky Four? Well, it doesn't he makes some big comeback in every movie. But
Yeah.
like, um, pick whichever Rocky. It's like watching that one on replay. It's like, man, I don't want to see this again. And by the end of it, you're just chanting USA, USA. That's just what Derrick Lewis is, dude. Um, so yeah, dude, like it was a Derrick Lewis fight. Rewatch it if you've got the time. It's always a good time. Oh, and you can actually watch this one. You don't have to buy. You don't have to pay $70 to watch a replay. There's my
Wow.
rant again.
That's a crazy concept.
Yeah, I know, right? Imagine that growth for your sport. All right, prediction time. We've got mentions of Chaos Williams. He'll be on the card. Adrian Yanez also be on the card. Both dudes, I feel like we would be predicting a year ago. Um, no longer the case because it's been a substantial fall off for both. But we are left with two fights. I believe the opener for the main card and then the main event for the main card. We'll start obviously with the opener. Luana Pinheiro versus Angela Hill.
I it's just I hate going against Angela Hill because she like somehow will just like find a way to grind out a win, right?
Yes.
Like that's what she's made her career out of doing. Um, and it's not like Luana Pinheiro. You talk about fighters who a year ago we thought were better than they actually are. I feel like that's the case with Pinheiro too, to be honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's a lot younger, um, and she's still like I like the tools that she has a little more in terms of if it doesn't get dirty, this should be Pinheiro's fight to win. She'll be able to, kind of pick her shots. She can mix in some takedowns if she wants. I think if you just get real like clinch heavy, like kind of dirty boxing situation, that's where she's gonna struggle, and that's where Angela Hill is gonna get the best of her. I'm banking on that not happening. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, and I'm in the same boat as you, like, but the thing I keep coming back to is old bones move slow. Angela Hill is 39 years old now. The game eventually passes you. She has a 75% takedown defense, but against Luana, it's like I don't really expect that number to hold up. I assume it's going to be a heavy press situation from Luana. I know she's not going to want to stay on the feet with her, because that's just not a recipe for success. So I'm banking on, like you said, this not getting that dirty and Luana just managing to get a takedown or two every round, get that control time racked up, and take the win probably by decision. Wouldn't be totally shocked by a sub, but lean decision because, like you said, it is Angela and she's very talented in her own right. She's just getting up there.
Yeah, Angela is impossible to get out of there, so I'm going decision as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, wouldn't shock me if she won. It wouldn't.
No, no, not in the slot. If I'm watching and she gets some kind of TKO finish or some or manages to block those takedowns off and gets the decision win, I'll just be like, yeah, that makes total sense. But
Hmm.
I had to go with my gut and had to go with the logic of it.
Yeah, but we'll skip all the way to the main event now. This one is pretty interesting though. I like I mean Barboza has kind of had a little bit of a resurgence his last couple fights. Lerone Murphy undefeated, I think, right?
Yes. Yep.
Undefeated. Still hasn't really like fought anyone super notable. This will probably be the first kind of good name that you can look at his record and be like, okay, like he beat this guy and is undefeated. Like he could be going somewhere.
Yep.
What are you thinking with this?
Laurent. Like I understand that Edson beat Billy Q, and then I don't remember who his last opponent was. But I understand that like he has a 2-win fight streak or a 2-fight win streak going, and it started to kind of go in the right direction. But you have to remember with Billy Q, he got him out of there because he just timed the takedowns right. He's not going to really have that against Lerone because he's going to keep it standing as well. Um, I would just assume that if this goes to the ground, it's because somebody got knocked down. So Lerone's going to be quicker, probably more precise at this point in his career. Um, got more momentum rolling behind him. Got a little bit more of a need to win a fight now. especially than Edson does at this point in his career. Like I said, I'm gonna go decision. Don't love it, especially if I'm predicting Lerone to win like I am. But yeah, I would rather see a KO or a TKO here because it would do so much more for Murphy.
Yeah, the Barboza, his second win was over Yusuf,
Oh, yeah.
which is, and that's a solid win because that was another guy who was kind of on the rise. I do think Lerone is more talented than Yusuf, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but he's not a super. Um, he's not like a. He's kind of a decision fighter. Like
Yeah,
I would.
he has been to this point in his UFC career, but he has like I think 7 of his 13 wins are KO TKO. So it's like
Yeah,
his obviously his hands are what got him to the dance, but you're right, it's been hard. He's been hard pressed to actually put somebody away lately.
I'm looking right now. So of his of his 6 UFC fights, 4 have gone to a decision. He's gotten 2 KOs.
Okay, yeah. And it was
So
7 of 13, so I had that right.
yeah. But yeah, I like what he brings to the table. He's got good striking. Like you said, I don't anticipate this is gonna see the mat at all. And Edson has shown that he has been a little chinny lately. Even
Yes.
though he's won those fights, I think if you get him with a clean enough shot, he could put him out.
Well,
But
like even as far back as like the Bryce fight, didn't he get knocked down?
it's a good question.
I thought Bryce Mitchell
I
knocked
don't
him
I don't
down.
remember, to be honest.
Um, I only vaguely remember that because that would have been like the day for Arkansas because Bryce is not a striker. So like, um, yeah, I vaguely remember Edson maybe getting knocked down versus Bryce. But either way, like point proven, Bryce is kind of a pillow hands guy. And if that happened like I remember it did, that all the more proof of what you're saying there.
Yeah, so it is kind of another one where it wouldn't shock me if Edson won, just
Yeah.
because like he has gotten a couple good wins lately and has shown that like his I guess his skills haven't slowed down. It's more his chin that concerns me at this point, you know?
Yeah. Well, and again, old bones move slower. Well, and I'd say slower for Edson because he has not shown like the typical like fall off the cliff type of setup. Because those losses were still against pretty decent people. But yeah, it's just like at this point, I'm gonna trust the dude that's younger, hungrier, hasn't proven anything yet, like just naturally. Like that's just kind of how it goes.
Yep. But that's all I got.
Same.
You good? You good
Yeah,
here?
I'm good. Where can they find us for the next episode?
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Fox 19 Jackson on Twitter, Alex Eisman KGWN on Twitter. It was a short episode today, but I mean,
And it looks like we won't have one this upcoming week, or well, I guess next week, and then we'll be back the week after,
yeah, we'll be back the week of
27th or something.
302.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, I mean, we can talk about these 2 fights that we predicted. It won't take super long, but yeah, we're uh we're in that kind of just tough time
All right.
of the month where
We rely on the UFC to create content for us, kind of. Um, so whenever they give us a week off on cards, and then the card prior to that only had 2 fights to talk about, you know, what are you gonna do?
nothing you can do, brother.
Nope. But until then, I'll see you, buddy.
See you in a couple weeks.